Not the special butter. Vandals.
Welcome back, mighty Vandals, to Tubs at the Club, brought to you by Snake River Stampede Whiskey, but we'll tell you a little bit more about that later in the show. We are the Idaho Vandals affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. I am your host, Dallas Hammer. I've been abandoned by Trebe and Bryan today, so holding it down in Moscow is Mr. Marten Heemstra.
Happy to be back on. I know I was on the IL last week, but fun to have a watch Idaho win in Moscow last week for homecoming, and excited to listen to you guys preview Idaho, Montana State.
Glad to have you back, Marten. Last but not least, it's the man of the hour coming to us from regions unknown. It's Montana Parlay. Parlay, it's been a while. How you doing, man?
Doing well. I'm right here in Billings, Montana, where I recorded Big Sky Big Takes on Monday, hanging out for a few more days before I head on up to Bozeman.
Hey, there we go. Guys, it is the biggest week of the year, honestly. Since there is no Little Brown Stein this year, Idaho, Montana State is the championship of the regular season, in my opinion. The Cat Grizz might differ toward the end of the year, but right now, this is it for the best team in the Big Sky. We're going to jump right into it. It's Around the Bar, brought to us by Hughes River Expeditions. Idaho versus Montana State. Parlay, I'm going to let you take the wheel. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, is there no Little Brown Stein game because Bobby picked Portland State over you guys as the rival because he wants an extra win in his pocket everywhere? Every year? Is that what happened? Is that what happened?
I think it's that, and Terry Golick also had a real soft spot for schools that weren't Montana too.
And I think we picked Northern Colorado, so who the hell am I to say anything about it? So I got to set the record straight, though. Okay, this is Bobcat Gold, not Grumpy Joe Poop Orange. Just so everyone knows.
You know, That would hurt more if it weren't for the fact that I associate that gold color with pain. And the yellow, the pride gold is the standard moving forward, because that gold that's on your shirt there, that is very close to Idaho tragedy gold, which was the color of the year for 20. I don't know, throughout really most of the 2020 or throughout most of 2010 and 2000s, and it's just bad colors parlay. Idaho, stick to the yellow. It's so much better there, guys. This is the big one. Idaho coming in at number 7, Montana State coming in at number 3. Brent Vegan 6-0 this year, 2-0 in conference, 37-9 in his career. Again, guys, if you've been listening to Tubbs at the Club for a while, you know Montana State made it to the finals in 2021, the semifinals in 2022. Last year was a bit of a heartbreaker, but we're not going to twist the knife on you too much here, Parlay.
Yeah.
And this year, again, one of the top teams in the nation, and it doesn't seem to matter. They've lost a couple linemen this year. They have had a couple injuries across the defense. Has not mattered. Now the schedule's been a little bit easier this year so far, but again, one of the top teams in the year in the league, just like you'd expect out of a Montana State team helped by Brent Vegan.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because we've had an easy schedule, no doubt about it. No beating around the bush here. We've played not only bad teams, but like historically bad teams. Mercyhurst, they are fresh out of D2, I believe, and they weren't even that good of a D2 team. UNC should be a D2 team, Northern Colorado, that is. Idaho State, at Idaho State, that place, I'm sure you guys love to play there, but it can be brutal. So coming out of there with a victory is fine. We too close for comfort. Utah Tech, that game was terrible. Like, I was there and I don't even think I watched most of it. I just kind of walked around and looked at the mountains. And then New Mexico, FBS win. Their quarterback was good. Their defense was atrocious. An FBS win on the road when it's 95 degrees out and we're down by 17 and heading into the fourth, I'll take it. That shows the resilience. Tommy came back from fumbling twice right into their hands for touchdowns. So that showed something. But this is like, I used to follow Montana high school sports a lot. And you'd get these Class C teams that were undefeated from one part of the state against a team that lost one or two in the northern part of the state, the big boys, those Swedes and Norwegians that worked on farms their whole lives. And the undefeated team would get beat by 30 because they hadn't played anyone. And Bobcats are not losing by 30, but they haven't played anyone. So running up against your guys' D-line and Eck is going to be a wake-up call. Obviously, we play against each other in practice, and I'm sure they're ramping it up this week a little bit early, but it's not the same as a game. And to go from Mercyhurst, Idaho State, and Northern Colorado to Idaho's in the trenches is a huge change. Huge. So we'll see how that shakes out in the first two quarters.
Yeah, you mentioned from the Tubbs stats department, otherwise known as Chuck Caswell in the YouTube comments, Sagarin Rankings has MSU's strength of schedule at 254 and Idaho's at 129. So huge discrepancy in what the teams have seen so far. But you look at Idaho and what they've done. Eck said in his press conference on Monday, Montana State is the second best team that they've played on the schedule, and it's not particularly close. So again, that's better than FBS, Wyoming, all the other ranked schools that Idaho has played. Yes, as you say, Parlay, they have not played particularly many great schools. Again, an FBS win on the road is an FBS win on the road. You take that whoever you get it from. But I think this game is going to come down to the trenches, exactly like what you said. Nobody's seen an Idaho defensive line the way that they pressure and just constantly rotate guys in when you're down. Justice Perkins, I don't believe, is playing the entire season. If I think your left tackle Jefferson is out as well. I know that Marcus Ware is still around. Cole Sign played a lot in 2023 or 2022. It's been a while. There's a bunch of guys that have some good playing time, but again, when this feels like one of those times that the offensive line is going to be tested pretty early, because while Idaho does have Keyshawn James Newby and Dallas Afalava and Zach Krotzer, the list just keeps going on of these guys that can make these big plays when the moment is big.
Yeah, and we always seem to have someone come up, especially on the O-line. But, the defense, I think, is what worries me. I think if you guys had Jack number 1, I'd be a lot more worried because we haven't proved to me in the last several years that we can stop the pass, especially the deep ball. We let the top open up. So a team that can pound the run and then open it up deep, which I know Eck knows how to attack. It's just, will Jack number 2 be able to execute is going to be what it comes down to. I don't know. The Davis loss, that does 2 things, I think, possibly, where it kind of diminishes the matchup a little bit, because we could have like number 3 Montana State versus number 4 Idaho, maybe even a little higher in certain polls. I saw Idaho as high as 1 in a lot of voters' minds before that loss. But maybe that wakes people up. Maybe Eck kind of realizes, hey, I can't be, the riverboat Eck like he does sometimes. Actually, no, he's not going to stop doing that. But it does, a loss like that kind of will refocus them, where maybe they would have been in a little different headspace coming into Bozeman. But I don't know. I don't know if any of that matters, because it's just the 2 best teams at the Big Sky, bar none. Right now, I'm sorry, Davis won at home in a late game, but I still think Idaho's probably better, especially once they're healthy. So it's in Bozeman, that atmosphere is going to be rowdy. 8:15 start time local, and it's a revenge game. Last year, you guys knocked us down a few pegs. Made us, because of you guys, we had to face North Dakota State. That and the stupid rules they had last year, regionalization. We had to face basically the number 3 team in the nation in our first game, which is crazy. But that's how it works. At least it did last year. So we've got revenge on our mind. And, man, I'm excited. Did you take a look at the spread yet out of Montana?
I have not. Parlay, I figured I was going to let you take the wheel and let the people know.
So on the pod on Monday, I guessed 9.5. Colby went as high from Weber State. So Idaho guys, maybe you have a new enemy in Weber. He guessed 11.5. And I kind of thought it was going to be hovering around the 10, because, Montana State's ranked higher. They're thought of as better. So that's 2 to 4 points right there by itself. And then Bozeman is at least, this is not old NFL rules where it's 3. College, you're looking at 4 on average, but places like Bozeman and Missoula, you're looking at 5 to 6. So I thought when you added those 2 together, an 8 to 10 point spread was going to be where it's at. It's at 5.5. I hate to bet on the Bobcats there, but that's what I would do. The problem is until FanDuel and the nationwide books open up, Sportsbet Montana just adjusts the juice. So right now you got to lay 23% VIG if you want to bet Montana State minus 5.5. If you want the Vandals plus 5.5, which I don't think is a good line for you guys. I mean, whether you like your team or not, if Idaho would have been 10 or more, I would have loved it, because I would have bet Idaho. But at 5.5, with that big of a VIG on Montana State, you got to lay $123 to get $100 profit. It's a stay away. Vandals, it's only 2% VIG. I mean, if you love the Vandals, just bet the money line. You almost get 2 to 1, plus 180. Another one that's curious to me is the over-under. I would have loved to see it higher, because these 2 teams kind of match up where strength on strength defensively versus strength on weakness offensively. Our passing defense isn't great, but our run defense is pretty darn good. And we keep most teams, at least our first string, keeps teams out of the end zone. So hypothetically, it should be a low-scoring game. It's at 53.5, which I've been burned hard betting unders on these Big Sky games. It looks like we're back to the old days of Big Sky is just a run-and-shoot conference. I saw some conference rankings my brother sent to me where we're like number 7. We're behind like a D2 conference and a D3 conference. Like the Big Sky is not looking too good as of yet this year, but a lot can happen going forward. So if I had to bet, I'd go under 53.5, but that'd make me nervous. And I guess Idaho money line, because the spread is just, I don't want to lay 23% VIG on Montana. I love -5.5, but I don't love the VIG. But we'll see, because I think FanDuel is going to open up at 7.5 to 9.5, and then the lines will switch, and then you can bet Idaho.
Yeah, to hit some of the football points in there, I mean, this definitely feels like it's going to be a low-scoring game. You mentioned feeling a little bit different if Jack Lane was the guy. Unfortunately, Jack Lane is not the guy. Still out. Hoping to get him back this year. The belief is he's going to be back this year. It does not sound like he's going to be back here. Patty Frakes in the comment section. I think stylistically this is a favorable matchup for Idaho, but whoever the Idaho QB is has to play well. I think it has to be Joseph Eck for Idaho to have a shot. Eck did say in his press conference at the beginning of the week that he thought Wagner's still the guy. He's been playing a little bit skittish because he got hurt against Wyoming and has just been kind of nursing that injury this whole time. Joseph Eck has played well enough to see some more snaps and definitely spoke about his moxie and the typical thing you'd want out of the quarterback is making the right decision at the right time. Maybe not Wagner's biggest strength, but I think when you look at what the teams are doing here, you run into an Idaho defense that is all about stopping the run, a Montana State team that is obviously all about the run. The strength on strength is going to mean that it's for Idaho, it's going to have to be won on the arm of the quarterback or some sort of Tommy takeover from our Tommy picking off your Tommy. Like it's going to have to be some sort of explosive pop that's going to do something here, because otherwise what's going to happen is Idaho is going to go up and just play the same way that Idaho wants to play, which is very aggressive on the lines. Well, this is definitely not a team that Idaho has one of the best defensive lines in the country. Montana State has one of the best offensive lines in the country and has for a very long time. This is going to be a battle of which team is going to be able to make the big play first. And unfortunately, I have a little bit more faith in Tommy Mellott and Scott Ray Humphrey than I do in the Vandals cast at the moment. Not sure who's going to be at running back. Day Buchanan could get some snaps. Art Williams could get some snaps. Nate Thomas might be fully healthy, but he was taken out of pads at the end of last game. So who knows what's going to happen there. But Eck did specifically mention Art Williams, Day Buchanan as the guys that might get some playing time if Nate Thomas can't go. But to circle back, as I'm kind of just talking in these giant circles, Parlay, I fully agree with you on the home field advantage. Eck said the same thing, said that Montana State is one of the great venues in college football. It's a true home field advantage. And then again, you have possibly the best line in the FCS. So it's such a environment that's hard to go in and win in, because you're going to get punched in the face. It's going to be loud. Simon Miller says, hey, Bozeman in October is different than Bozeman in November. That's very true. It's definitely at least not going to be freezing cold. But, I mean, at 8:15, it's dark. It's going to start getting cold. It's maybe not 6 degrees outside, but it's certainly not going to be a balmy kibby dome out there.
Yeah, the low is 35 for Saturday night, which might not happen till 4 a.m, but come second half, it's going to be chilly. It's going to be a lot colder than what these players are used to, whether they're practicing indoors or outdoors in the afternoon, because I've been here in Montana since Saturday. It's been hot. It's been 75. It breached 85 degrees here in Billings today, but the nights have been cold. In Bozeman, it gets colder faster, and it's going to be chilly. I mean, when they come back from that in the second half, they're going to feel it, and it's going to make things a little different. But yeah, obviously it's not the same as it is in the winter when it's below 20 degrees. And we'll see about the wind, because it's been windy too. So if, that can make a big difference what side of the field you're on. At night, there is no sun for the Bobcats to warm ourselves in, because that's always an advantage. We're on the sunny side. But it's going to be really interesting to see the vibe of that crowd. They don't allow tailgates to open until 4 hours early, and they're getting strict on that. But it's going to be rowdy. Between that and the fact that it's the last game on ESPN. It's the last game of the slate, except for Hawaii. There's going to be a lot of eyes on the game. There's going to be a lot of money bet on the game. So I'm looking forward to it. That's why I plan my fall trip around it, or when I'm traveling quite a bit. But I definitely wanted to come to this game more than any other game in Bozeman this year besides the playoffs.
I mean, and absolutely the right call. Again, top 10 matchups. I don't think anybody would argue that Idaho is one of the best teams in the conference, even if, there's been some struggles. There's been some slips here. They're down a bunch of guys playing third string quarterback half a game. It's still going to be a brawl, but you get down to some of the things that Eck mentioned. You got to get Montana State in third and long to win. That's why they were able to win in the Kibbe Dome last year, because they were able to stop the run well enough to force Tommy to have to throw it more frequently than they wanted on third down. But that's a lot easier to do when your defense has the crowd noise behind you. This is going to be a complete opposite for Idaho. Obviously, the crowd is not going to be your friend. So offensively, Eck also mentioned Idaho is going to have to play simple and get the play calls in correctly the first time, because what's going to happen with a patchwork offensive line and your second and third string quarterbacks, you're gonna get stuff screwed up. If you've got an audible out at the line, well, it's cripplingly loud in Bozeman, and it's guys that are not the first stringers, but just based on day one of the season. Obviously, they're first stringers now. This feels like it's going to be a slow, ugly brawl, Parlay. I know that scoring has been up everywhere, but and of course, now that I'm saying this, it's going to be something ridiculous like 44-40. But this feels like it's going to be a low scoring effort between the two teams.
I agree. That's why I'm tempted to go put a unit or two units on the under. Problem with college football is that can change in a second. Like, the teams could be running Eck likes to take advantage. Like, he'll run to the ball, but he'll make sure his guys take the full play clock down. Montana State obviously runs it constantly. So the clock should be moving. But you know how this works. Like, a couple fumbles, a couple deep passes, and what you think is a lock on the under is all of a sudden 21 points were scored in 2 minutes. I look at last week. Obviously, the Grizz game hit the over before we even knew what happened. That was a bad bet on my end, even though it was 9 points of closing line value. You can message me for more degenerative terms later on. But the Montana State game, I thought it was a 58.5. I was like, all right, they're going to shut out Northern Colorado. They're not scoring that much. They're taking it easy. They got the big Idaho game coming up. And I tune in, there's 27, 35 points in the third quarter. So I could see something similar where the first quarter is nothing. Second quarter, maybe they get a couple points towards the end of the half. And then the third quarter, beginning of the fourth, we see just the gates open up, right? That could easily be the case when the defense tires down a little bit. It's late, because that second half is going to start after 10 o'clock, right around 10 o'clock local time. I mean, that's a lot later than these guys are used to. What time? I mean, I guess if anything, that could be an advantage Idaho, because you've had the Davis game. That one ended at after midnight Eastern time, I know. And I don't know, what was it? I guess it was 9 p.m. only on the Pacific Coast, but seemed later than that. Maybe it was midnight Central time. And then you guys played at Oregon. Was that a later game too, or was that a late afternoon?
4 or 5. It was late afternoon.
I mean,
4:30 kickoff.
Thank you. There's a Marten popping in from the stats department. 4:30 kickoff for Oregon.
Okay. But you've had, pretty fresh off that Davis game. That was late. Outdoors. You know, you got the road game. I mean, are you a little concerned how the defense has done the last 3 games? I mean, 17 against Northern Arizona, that ain't bad. But elbowing Christian that second half. Davis, I guess, 14 points a half isn't crazy. You'd hate to give up 28. Are you guys concerned a little bit after the first 3 games looked amazing? You guys looked like world beaters defensively. Last 3 games, not the same story. What are your thoughts on that?
My biggest thoughts are the same reason that I love hearing what you're saying about, hey, this could get weird, could get a whole bunch of points scored in the third quarter. Idaho had 3 first downs in the second half last game, and that's been the story of the second half. The last handful of games, it's been that the offense just cannot stay on the field, and it's wearing the defense down. That's why these points are being scored. There's obviously a little bit of adjustment that's happening, and the opponents come out a little bit better in the second half, and obviously have a little bit better game plan. But it is that Jack Wagner has not been able to sustain drives in the second half. Nick Josephek has not been able to sustain drives in the second half. Outside of that drive that they kicked a field goal on last game to start the third quarter, I think Idaho had something like 60 yards of offense the rest of the game. Like that's where the problem is to me. Defensively, I think they'll be okay. They rotate enough guys. Yeah, they've lost some corners. That's been a big problem. Corey Thomas Jr. and Abe Williams, both the third string, and then the third corner, and then the starter corner opposite Andrew Marshall. Both of them have been lost in the last couple of weeks. So there are health going down. Patty Frakes in the comment section, I'm not concerned for Idaho's defense at all, to be honest. He also points out Abilene and Davis, both really good offenses with really good passing quarterbacks. But for me, it's Idaho's defense will survive as long as they can keep the ball on the field. But the problem is that is not something we've seen out of the Idaho offense this year. Jack Lane, obviously, we all had high hopes and thoughts and projections from what we can see from the 2 games he played over the last 2 years, and then Oregon being Oregon, you have a little bit you can project, but Idaho just hasn't been consistent enough offensively. If you go back and look at the stats in the Big Sky, Idaho offensively is not good. 24 points a game, 10th in the conference right now, but only above Portland State and Northern Colorado. It's just not firing on all cylinders there. Defensively, obviously right up there with Montana State, but that to me, I know I've said it like 7 times now, it comes down to Idaho just can't keep possession of the football.
Yeah, and I'm going to borrow something so don't push it on me, but because I think Idaho's great. But one of the Grizz fan pod guys was telling us in a side chat that, there's some thought that maybe Idaho is a little overrated. I don't know about that, but I think what he said, here's something I think I do agree with, is that top to bottom, you guys aren't as deep or as strong athletically and talent-wise as Montana State and the XDSUs. But the dudes were playing out of their butts for Eck, especially in the Oregon game, okay, and the Wyoming game. They were playing hard, and Eck's a good coach. But now that there's a lot of film on you guys, and you're talking about second half adjustments, that's why your offense is struggling. Because good teams, above average teams, are going to do well against your offense because you just don't have the dudes this year. You don't have Hatton. Your QB1's hurt. So obviously last year your QB was like a top 3 dude. So now teams can stop you. I don't want to say easily because I'm going to eat crow this weekend, but it's not hard for good teams to stop you guys just by watching some film, because you just don't have the talent that you did last year, and your QB1's hurt. So that's probably where those struggle. And another reason why I'm really going to talk myself into this under. Just been getting burned on college football totals this year so far.
I mean, you're not wrong. While I do want to point out Chuck Caswell and Jason Mayer in the comment section pointing out how funny it is that the Grizz are calling Idaho overrated.
That's why I had to throw that in there.
Defensively, I think Idaho does have, and Patty Frakes in the comment section saying the same thing. Defensively, Idaho's got the depth of an elite team. I don't know if maybe quite the depth in the secondary quite yet, but certainly in the front seven, the depth is there. Offensively, not even close. I couldn't agree more with that, Patty. That's where the problem is you get down to the second and third quarterbacks. It's certainly not what quarterback 1 and 2 were last year between McCoy and Lane. You lost Anthony Woods, which is a bummer, but the running back room has gotten deeper, maybe just not the ceiling of what there was last year. But then, yeah, you go from 2 top 5 FCS receivers to Jordan Dwyer and Mark Hamper will be really good, but they're really young. And an offensive line that Eck has known for years and been saying for years is the biggest point of this team that has to be built. And that depth has gotten better, but they're still down a couple guys, and realistically, if they lost 1 or 2 more linemen, I think that would be it for Idaho's dreams of a long playoff run, because that depth is still building. So I don't actually think that's that crazy to say that top to bottom, Idaho just does not have the same amount of talent as the XDSUs or Montana State, or maybe Montana. We'll see what happens at the end of the year if they're looking a little bit different. But yeah, that's what takes the longest to build is those trenches. Idaho's gotten the defensive done, hasn't gotten the offensive done yet, and that's where, I think a lot of people are probably picking this up from my tone. I don't have a ton of confidence in this game. This is the one that's like, oh man, if Idaho's going to drop a game, this is a pretty easy one to circle, going on the road to a top 3 team in the country with a dinged up offensive line and a backup quarterback. Before we get into that parlay, I have to pull up a quick message from Mr. Bryan Marceau, dropping in for just, about 25, 30 seconds here to tell all the people.
So if you want to make your Vandal game day, look, you can't go wrong with reaching for a bottle of Snake River Stampede. You have 2 options. Either their entry-level Snake River Stampede, or if you want to celebrate a big Vandal win, you can reach up and grab that Snake River Stampede 1915 Small Batch Edition. Either option is a double barrel finish, first fill bourbon for both, and then your Stampede finishes in Oloroso sherry casks. Your 1915, in addition to being aged a couple extra years, it's finished in ex-Canadian rye whiskey casks. You can't go wrong either way. Grab yourself a bottle of Snake River.
Wow, Dallas, what a smooth transition. That was
so if you want to
make
your Vandal game day, your Vandal.
Oh boy, that was almost as smooth as pulling off of bottle of SRS, but I completely screwed the whole thing up. So anyways, had to get the sponsor shout out in there. Parlay, what would your key to this game be?
Well, first, I think anyone who's coming to the game needs to bring a bottle of Snake River Stampede whiskey and drop it by the tailgate I'll be at, 653, 651. Stop by and say hi to Parlay. Jake. Jake is the name. People know me by there. Troy and Mark, it's their tailgate. A bunch of kids stole cash out of their box that they used to buy drinks. So if you're in town, it's a great tailgate. Bring a bottle of Stampede. Venmo, if you can't bring a bottle or a 6-pack, Venmo them $5 or $10. Help make up for these. I'm sure it was a Grizz fan. I'm sure Bobcats would never steal from their own. But come find me at the tailgates, right? Now, I might shout that out again. But what was the question? I got caught up on your ad read and wanted to just get into the
good stuff.
Yeah.
Just what's your key to the game, Parlay? We're about halfway through this show here. Want to talk keys to the game before we pivot to the Big Sky, and then we'll circle back and give score predictions.
I mean, it's just going to be boring stuff. It's a night game. It's a huge game. There's a lot on the line. It's going to be like a playoff game because everyone, especially Vegan, knows how important Tommy does too. All the upperclassmen know how important a top 2 seed is. Okay. Mm-hmm. When you're looking at North Dakota State and South Dakota State this year, like maybe they're not as pessimistic as I am, but I don't think we can win there in the semifinals outside of a perfect performance. In Bozeman, I think we can beat either team. In Idaho, you guys are probably thinking something similar. Yeah, we slipped against Davis, but if we're still got, a little bit of control, we got a little bit of manifest destiny. At least an outside shot for a top 2 seed if they win this game and finish the rest of the season undefeated. Because we can knock off Davis, right? So, and they'll probably lose to Sack or someone else. This game is huge, and there's going to be nerves. It's more than just your average Big Sky football game because of the lights, because of ESPN2, because of the seating on the line. So it's going to come down to ball control. Simple stuff like making your extra points, making your short field goals, getting your punts off, so field position switches, not muffing the punt out of bounds because it's 30 degrees and your hands are cold, not fumbling the punt when you're trying to receive it like the Bobcats have done in the past. And, holding on to that damn football. Both teams are going to run it a lot. Both teams are going to do some tricky play action type passes that can go big, but they can also go the wrong way. So it's going to be which team minimizes those mistakes. All of those. A lot can happen. It's college football. And capitalizes on you guys more so, right? You're on the road. You're going to have to capitalize on the big plays. And we're going to have to limit turnovers. That's basically, if you guys have 2 or more turnovers, I don't see you winning on the road. But unless we have twice as many, right? We Bobcats, I should say, just need to control the ball and do well on special teams. That's what's been killing us against good teams the last few years is we can't freaking kick the damn ball, whether it's, it's so frustrating. It really is. So yeah, tackle well. That's a good point. There's been some times where it's like, what the hell are we doing tackling? And obviously I think the guys are going to be up for it. You're going to see 9, 10, 11 hats on the ball every time in this game from both sides.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely going to be a very physical game that you're going to see the mob tackling, which is what you want to see. You don't want to see the corners standing over there lackadaisically waiting. Like, come on, get in there and let's see a pile on. Jason Mayer in the comment section, Parlay, drop a Venmo link for some drink cash. So if you've got that Venmo, drop that in the comments for our people. Yeah. Look at that, nice and easy. It's at Montana Parlay. Super
and I'll
clean,
forward that
easy
to the Benson boys. I mean, I'm actually at one of them, their homes right now in his office. Got the good Wi-Fi, got the double screen set up here. Got a place to stay when I don't need to stay at my parents 6 nights in a row because some of you guys know what that's like. It's good to see family, but sometimes I'm gonna see him. I saw him for breakfast. I'll see him tomorrow night. But, it's nice to have some places to escape to for work and for podcasting. Absolutely. That way you can sprinkle in some fuck words and nobody's going to be the wiser about it. My mom will come and scream, Jake, watch your mouth. Mom, I'm 40. I'm 40. I'm a man. I better stop before we get sued from Oklahoma State. You go back to, you mentioned like it's pretty simple. It's run the ball, don't turn it over, play good defense. Like, man, when you look at Tommy Mellott and what Scott Ray Humphrey's been doing, I mean, honestly, Adam Jones has looked pretty good. The rushing attack for Montana State is tough, especially the outside zone is probably Idaho's weakest point, and that there's things on paper that scare me, but Patty Frakes keeps trying to talk me into this in the comment section, mentioning that it's coming down to the Idaho run game. Like, Idaho has run the ball really well. It comes down to Tommy Mellott. Can they get pressure on him? Like, they've done a pretty good job of that. Keyshawn James Newby is certainly looking like he's going to blow past 10 sacks this year after Eck thought he'd be able to hit double digits this year, and he's already at 8. But you go back to the special teams thing, Parlay. You mentioned that you guys can't kick the ball. Eck has mentioned specifically Idaho has struggled on special teams this year. They've been pretty solid at it the last couple of years, and this year it has been rough. I know that a lot of our Tubbs listeners are in the agreement of, hey, Eck, take the damn points. I'm not quite as full into that argument because I've seen the kicker miss 2 extra points this year. Like,
if you don't have a guy that's knocking in extra points at a 99% clip, I couldn't 100% trust the guy from anything longer than 30. So I understand where Eck gets aggressive. I understand that's his thing. He's going to commit to it. But Eck also mentioned Idaho's got to be able to run the ball better at the end of the game, and that is not something that they did well last week. It scares me, man. Patty's in the comment section. MSU's defense is worse than people think when it comes to the run game. They over pursue so much. Killed him in Moscow last year, and I still see it on tape. Almost got him at New Mexico. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, right? Is Idaho's played a gauntlet of a schedule. You know that they can hang. We don't maybe know as much about Montana State because, again, that schedule has been not so awesome. So, going to probably be able to stop the run better than the throw. But when Idaho is not going to be able to throw the ball anywhere near as well as they run it, it's just not a great recipe for success in my thought here. Tom Kendall saying, use run to set up the pass. Agree, but can Idaho pass the ball consistently enough to keep the chains moving? And that to me is going to be the key to the game. Is I think Montana State's going to score in the mid-20s no matter what. Is Idaho going to be able to keep up? And that's what it's going to come down to. Any final thoughts, Parlay, on Montana State, Idaho before we quickly hit the Big Sky?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some chess match stuff going on too with Vegan and Eck. I mean, they know each other from the Dakota days. They're both good coaches. It's going to be, all right, you're going to focus on this. I know you're focusing on this, so we're going to do this. Wait, I know you're going to do this because you think I'm going to focus on this. So we're actually going to do this. And defensively, the biggest reason I'm not going to bet under 53.5, wink, is that I look at Montana State's schedule. Okay. They gave up 31 to New Mexico. Okay. 14 of those were Tommy's fumbles, right? Utah Tech, they were horrific on offense. They gave up 24 to Maine, 13 to Mercyhurst, 17 at Idaho State, whatever, 17 at home against Colorado. People will say it's the second string, it's the third string, but that's concerning to me. It really is. And I have no idea how they're going to do against I know you guys don't have your guys that you want out there, but still, you're a hell of a lot better. Mercyhurst, Northern Colorado, and Maine have been our home games. And they've all scored 17 or more points. So that makes me think Idaho could easily get 24 to 30. Easily. And, so if we win that game, that's an over. But we'll see. Maybe it's could be a totally different ball game with our starters playing for 4 straight quarters in a game that we have revenge on the mind and have to win for that first or second seed and home field in the semifinal.
Final points here. Patty Frakes. I think Idaho knows how to take advantage of that aggressive 4-2-5 that MSU likes to run. Eck did have a lot of compliments about the new adjustments to the scheme this year and how creative things are on third down. So that's not great for Idaho. Love where Patty's head is at. The other thing is I do want to unfortunately point out Drew Pomodoro is expected to play his first game of the season. Polidor, not Pomodoro. So that's the starting strong safety free safety across from Rylan Ort, expected to be back for his first action this season. So, gentlemen, before we bring Marten in to talk about the Big Sky as a whole and predict the games, we got to take a quick little trip down the river. If you are looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, don't look past your backyard. Hughes River Expeditions has been Vandal-owned and operated since 1976, and they're ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the Middle Fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River of No Return, the Salmon River Canyons, or even the Selway. And you can check out special trips like one to see the Perseid meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches, Bryan. Always the beaches, not the bitches. Run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs. And the same thing I repeat every single week, guys. Fish the most remote stretches of river in the entire United States. If you like fishing, just bring your clothes and let HRE handle the rest. It's that easy. Grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now at 406-540-4450 or check them out at hughesriver.com. Martin, it is time. There he is. Martin, any thoughts about Idaho, Montana State before we jump into Big Sky Pick'em?
Nothing. It should be a fun game.
That's, I think, an understatement of the year, Martin. I love it. Guys, we're going to just jump right into the hottest of all of the games this week. Everybody knows we just talked Idaho, Montana State, but nobody really was here for that. Everybody wants to hear our breakdown of Idaho State versus top 5 Portland State.
You sure don't want to talk about how we all did last week?
Oh, yes, I forgot about that, Martin. Okay, yes, let me take one quick step back. Week 6 results of Big Sky Pick'em. Trebe off to a fantastic start, hit 2 and 3 there. Not super great. Dallas and Bryan go 4 and 1. As Martin Heemstra goes 5 and 0 to win yet another week of the Big Sky Pick'em. It does help picking against Montana. It's a blind pick, Martin, but I respect the hell out of it because it's working this year. Love it. Gentlemen, Idaho State, Portland State. Martin, you're on the mic.
I thought about this. For some reason, I always like to think Portland State will get one funky game this year. I still think Idaho State will win this one.
Parlay.
Let's see. It's at Idaho State. I think you guys got that wrong in your thing. It's at Idaho State.
It is at Idaho State.
I picked the spread at Idaho State minus 5.5. I think Idaho State wins this at home.
Yeah, the ICCU Dome, as it's called now. I liked Holt Arena / the 70s Porno Dome, but Portland State is bad. I know that they almost pulled it off last week against UC Davis, and realistically, they probably should have. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not what the final score said. Just doesn't feel like Portland State's going to have the horses to hang in this one. Interestingly enough, Bruce Barnum going to a place he almost took the head coaching job at. They offered it to Cody Hawkins over him, but he was one of the 2 finalists. Patty Frakes in the comment section saying, take the over. I'm definitely picking ISU in this one. No picks from Trebe or Bryan. We will try to get them in before the games and update everybody next week how they're doing. In the comment section, Patty Frakes saying it might be a 45-42 game. Tom Kendall, ISU 24, PSU 20. Steve Kurtz, ISU. Ron Lowney, ISU. Patty Frakes, ISU. Chuck Caswell taking PSU. Andrew Whipple, Bengals by 17. Tom Kendall pointing out, that PSU got hosed. And Montana Parlay in the comment section. This game does often hit the over. Parlay, I'm sure we are going to hit the over. Well, I'm say that, but it's going to be 6-3, as I say. We're definitely going to hit the over in this one. Simon Miller, Bungles win. Guys, it's for the most part, everybody's picking Idaho State. Captain 58 picking Vikes by a field goal, 38-35. Let's get to something at least a little bit. Nope, never mind. This game's even worse. Cal Poly at UC Davis.
UC Davis.
Davis, but will they cover the spread? I think it's going to be close to 30.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all we've got to look for here. I know Cal Poly's got that huge win over Northern Colorado, but I know that UC Davis just lost to Portland State, guys, but no, I know it's a rivalry game. The battle for the Golden Horseshoe, or the something with a horseshoe. Anyways, it's in Davis. UC Davis is so far above what Cal Poly is. I just can't see this happening. Crewhead 76 game is canceled because of coughing. I think that was probably for the ISU PSU game, but honestly, if I were Cal Poly, I would turn into Coward Poly for this one if I could. Everybody in the comment section saying UC Davis. Patty Frakes, if Jaden Jones is back for Poly, Poly will cover. If not, Davis does. Jason Mayer pointing out it's the Golden Bidet. That is probably what is actually at stake here. Next, gentlemen, this is yet another stink bomb. Northern Colorado at Weber State.
Weber State.
This is the type of game Weber loses. you know, they're notorious for this type of where their fans are so pumped. They're few fans that they have because they've got a lot of competition in the Salt Lake area. They get all riled up. I think a few years back they were getting votes in the top 5, and they came home and lost to Portland State. Northern Colorado is terrible, so that's not going to happen. But it would be funny if it did happen. It's going to be Weber by a lot. Weber should be favored by at least 24.5, probably more.
Yeah, Cal Poly. Northern Colorado is on to quarterback 4 or 5 this year after that roster was already absolutely brutalized by Ed McCaffrey and his family. Weber State, currently the 20th team in the country. Yes, Mr. Tight Pants. I forgot about those. Those were something. Glad that family has left this conference. Weber State, 20th team in the country. This is the type of game that they have a letdown on, especially if you talk to Colby or any of the Weber State guys. None of them huge fans of Mickey Mental and his coaching decisions so far, but you're looking at a Northern Colorado team that just lost to Montana State 55-14. They lost 28-7 to Cal Poly. They have really not been particularly competitive in any game other than that ACU game that they somehow magically threw the ball 3 times and only lost 24-22. In the comment section, for the most part, everybody picking Weber. Some folks saying UNC will cover, but yeah, for the most part, Patty Frakes, I think Weber scores under 30, Norco scores under 10. That's really what it's looking like. Duffer's Tavern does say letdown game for Weber, but Crewhead 76, Fast Eddie Lamb, and Noco. We got a couple people picking Noco, but no, that's going to be a no from me. This one might be the big one, boys. NAU at Montana. Martin?
You already know who I'm picking, Northern Arizona. They redeemed themselves after last week.
Yeah, I'd love to pick Northern Arizona, but Montana, they get it done at home. They can score. And they can score more than NAU. I don't know how Weber outscored them. I just can't even wrap my head around that. But I made it public on Twitter that I'm also on NAU plus 12.5. So I'd love to see the Grizz just squeak out a 7 to 10 point win, but they're probably going to crush them and continue to make me lose money. They always do.
Yeah, as much as I'd love to say, hey, NAU's looked a whole lot better this year. NAU fought Idaho close, and honestly, if Pennington hadn't gotten hurt, we might be talking about that as a different homecoming than the win that it became. But when's the last time that Montana lost back-to-back games at home? I
don't know. I mean, it probably happened under Stitt. But
what I'm guessing, it does not feel like Montana's going to lose both of these games. If they lose to Weber State and Northern Arizona back-to-back weeks, then I think there's probably conversations to be had that are not just, hey, down year, huh? That could be the Bobby Howe seat could get just lit right back on fire if that happens. But yeah, I just don't feel it. In the comment section, as you'd expect from a pro Idaho podcast, a lot of folks picking NAU. Tom Kendall, NAU. Taylor Cash, NAU. If Pennington comes back, Tom Kendall if the QB's back, but then if not, yeah. Steve Kurtz, Grizz rebound, but the D stinks it up again. 55-53. Ron Lowney, Montana in a close one, etc., etc., etc. For the most part, go Astro Jacks, but a lot of folks picking the Grizz here. Gentlemen, down to the last game before we circle back to ours, Eastern at Ballsack State.
I'm getting a little cocky here because I want to make sure that I keep my crown for another week. I'm going to go Eastern Washington.
Sacs coming off a bad loss and a bye. They should refocus. They're at home. They're going to win.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. Again, NAU crushed them a couple weeks ago, but it was going right into the bye. They're at home. If it was in Cheney, then maybe things would be a little bit different because things get weird in Cheney, as the Grizz would tell you just a couple weeks ago. But again, Vandal, former student Patrick, I think Sac State will win by a lot. Unfortunately, if he's not picking Eastern, not many others are. Tom Kendall picking Eastern, but just about everybody else picking Sac. Jason Mayer, Eastern pulls off the upset, but a lot of folks capped in. Sac by 20. Chuck Caswell, Sac State easily. Colin Hughes saying it's going to be a tight one, but I got to go with Sac State here as well. This feels like the best times are in the past for Eastern and Aaron Best. So just doesn't
best
feel
of times, but there weren't really the best of times.
They had that one run, one single season. And then otherwise it has not been the best of times for Aaron Best. Gentlemen, we are at the 55-minute mark. We've gone through all of the games. We have not picked Idaho at Montana State. Marten, Idaho at Montana State.
In the preview for the season, I said this was the one Idaho was going to lose. And then Dallas and Bryan said Idaho would win this one, but then picked them to lose the UC Davis game, but then they picked them to win it in the preview. I am reversing on my course for what I said in the preview, and I'm going to go same thing as last year. Idaho 24, Montana State 21.
I don't know if this is going to be from field goals or missed extra points, but I got MSU covering the early spread, 27, Idaho 20.
So in the comment section, we've got Tom Kendall, Idaho 21-17, Ron Lowney, Bobcats 41, Idaho 13. That one hurts, Ron. You will get kicked out of the comment section if that happens. In the reaction show, we will kick you out if it is a 30-point or 29-point, whatever the hell. Math is. I went to Idaho. Math is hard. Crewhead 76, Idaho 24, MSU 21. Jim Verlanik, Cats by 70. Also, Jim, that's recipe to get kicked out. We haven't met you yet, but out of here. Steve Kurtz, neither team scores 30, Idaho 27-24. Duffer's Tavern 24-23 Vandals. Jason Mayer 24-20 Idaho. Simon Miller, Vandals pull off the upset 31-27. Seth Meyer stepping away from the late show 28-17. Late Bobcats touchdown puts it away. Colin Hughes 24-23 Idaho. Simon Miller, the head says MSU wins 35-20. Idaho Real Estate. Eck chooses to kick 3 field goals and Idaho wins by 3. Patty Frakes, Idaho. Chuck Caswell 31-28 Idaho. MSU goes wide left. Captain 58, Hart 35-31 Idaho, Head 35-18 Cats. We are all sorts of split in the Tubbs community right now. Guys, I'm going to go Montana State 24, Idaho 17. I just don't think that Idaho's quarterbacks are going to get it done. Andrew Whipple dropping it in. Him and I are on the same page tonight, guys. Pains me to say this, but our QBs aren't going to get it done. MSU 42, Idaho 27. Sorry, fellas. That's where I'm at. I just don't think there's enough coming from the offense to keep Idaho in this. There's a chance, and I hope I'm totally wrong, there's a chance that the running backs are going to be able to really make that, again, the overcommitment of the MSU defense, going to make something out of that. But it comes down to the guy with the ball in his hand. And unfortunately, right now, there's not a lot of guys you take over Tommy Millott anyways, but you certainly don't take Wagner and Joseph Eck.
Last time Idaho played in Bozeman, sorry, almost said the wrong town there. They played a 2-quarterback system in 2021 and only lost by 7, 20-13.
That was the windy game, I believe, and we came out not look. I think that was right.
That was
because we had what's his name?
That might have been that was not. That was Borscht ball. That was straight Borscht ball. Never mind. That might have been no Beaudry ball.
And our quarterback was not good because he came to Missoula and looked horrific, and then he quit on the team. So that was a weird year, and obviously we ended up going to the Natty that year. So, hey, if we can get a weird, low-scoring, close win out of this game and end up in the Natty, as long as we don't lose to the Grizz, I'll take that. I'll take that for the season. But yeah, that was a weird game that afternoon. It was like 40-mile-an-hour gusts, I feel like.
And that is why Idaho was able to stick in there, because it was Boris ball. There wasn't a whole lot of passing. It was, I think he had like 25 carries or something like that. What a crazy game. Man, I still can't believe McKay ended up. Man, what a ride that career was. Just what a ride. Gentlemen, it's been an hour. Parlay, thank you for joining us. Any final thoughts from Marten or Parlay before we say goodnight?
Yeah, come check out a tailgate. We're out by the new addition on the parent side, outside of behind the big scoreboard, behind the add-on of the athletic, the physical PT, whatever it is. We're like a double space. We got a white trailer. Ask for Parlay, ask for Jake, ask for Mark, ask for Troy. Bring your favorite Snake River whiskey, bring a 6-pack Idaho beer, or drop $5 or $10 on the Venmo to make up for thieves and just having a good time. We're good people. We're nice tailgaters. We're not like Grizz who ask for ID to get a hot dog, okay? We'll share food. We'll share beer. We'll have a good time.
Couldn't have said it better. We don't hate Montana State. We do hate Montana. Got no, there's obviously a little bit of rivalry there because the teams have been good the last couple of years, but hey, I've never had a problem with the MSU fans. Parlay, thank you as always for coming on. Gentlemen, it's time. Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
Bobcats.
Go Vandals.